Hello everyone, welcome back to the Sports with Sardaji F1 podcast. Today we're going to discuss the 2024 season preview. It's just about underway with FP2 going on, or has it finished already? But yeah, um, the qualifying is tomorrow. We have a bit of a different format for the first two races. We are qualifying on Friday, but no sprint. We have the race on Saturday. So we have the race on Saturday for the first two weekends before we go to the more usual Sunday schedule. Don't ask me why F1 has its own
No,
tricks.
it's because of Ramadan.
I see.
Yeah,
Okay, got it. All right, makes sense given the two countries that is going to be held in. Okay, so we had preseason test, last weekend, and we had so I mean we had a bit of interesting results in preseason testing. And the first day, obviously, Max at top. No surprises. 1.1 seconds gap. I mean, what the hell that Red Bull is doing there? But day
Mm.
two and day three were more interesting. We saw Sainz on top in P1,
yeah,
Perez in
yeah,
uh, Max, but yeah, Max didn't race that day. And then day three we had Leclerc at top and George Russell and Joe Van you were in the top three, and Max just about behind. But I think it was on different tires, I guess, right? But yeah, a lot of interesting results in testing. What do you think, Aniket? Is
yeah. I
there?
like how that. I like how we're getting straight into business. We are like, there's nothing else to talk about. We're just getting into it. So
Yeah,
I love that we are getting straight into it. No more, talking about off-season stuff. So F1 has
yeah,
officially
yeah.
begun now, and we can talk about
I
the
mean, this year is
on-track
going to be
events.
one long silly season with so many contracts ending at the end of the year, right? It's
Yeah,
going to be a year of
yeah.
silly season.
We had a huge bombshell off the track, so now we have to see how everything pans out on track. But let's speak about the testing as you brought it up. Let's speak about what happened in testing. Going into
Yeah,
testing, we all saw the release of every car. We saw
I'll tell you.
we saw like
Yeah,
the Red Bull, the Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes, and the others as well. And obviously, everyone was very impressed by what Red Bull had done in terms of their design, and they had a unique design which was pretty unconventional compared to the other cars which we saw. So, I mean, we thought it would be another Adrian Newey masterstroke in terms of them just romping away to the championship even before the championship has even begun. And we saw that
yeah,
on day one of testing where Max had like a more than a 1 second lead on the field.
yep.
But
1.1
obviously,
seconds ahead of Lando
yeah.
Norris.
So that's a way to. I mean, that's like a statement to start off the F1 season in 2024. But I mean, we all know that testing times actually are not like not to be representative of the actual leaderboard. So I mean, it's good. I mean, it's obvious for a fact that Red Bull are going to be very quick. But it was good to see that teams like Ferrari, Mercedes, and even the Visa Cash App team, as well as
Racing
Stake.
Bulls.
Yeah. I mean, I'm forgetting the team names, man. So many team names have changed. Even Stake. I think that's are they still called Stake or are they called Alfa Romeo or whatever they call right now? So
I think in the Middle East, because gambling adds a ban, they're going as Kick Sauber.
yeah.
I think some commentators are calling them Sauber. They're like, we hell with
Yeah.
this.
I think on this podcast, let's just call them Sauber. Okay, so
Yeah,
Sauber as
yeah,
well. So we saw a mix of all these different teams, setting times, testing their long runs, and and then having a fair share in the leaderboard battle as well. So I would say let's not put too much emphasis on these testing times. We know that Red Bull will definitely be on top for the majority of the season based on what analysts are saying, based on other people are saying, and based on what we ourselves as podcast enthusiasts saw. So
yeah.
um, I think that the pecking order is still to be decided because we've not had a race yet. But we can start
Right.
off by saying that Red Bull will be on top and then followed by the rest of the teams, which makes it for a very interesting season ahead.
Yeah. So who do you think the best of the rest is going to be? I mean, yeah, I mean, we all expect Red Bull to be romping home. Maybe they win 24 or 24 races this time. Science doesn't even get a moral victory. But who do you think is second? So last year we saw Ferrari and Mercedes really fight it out. Especially at the end. Um, you know, we started the year with Ferrari and Aston Martin kind of going at it, and then Aston Martin fell off.
Yeah,
Ferrari made improvements, but we saw Mercedes make a big jump once they finally gave up on zero quads. And we also
yeah,
saw McLaren come from behind at the end, spoiling Ferrari's party. And we had a very close race. I mean, ultimately, Mercedes split Ferrari for P2. But
yeah.
what do you think is going to happen this year? Do you think Ferrari, who said they changed 95% people, they changed 95% of the car's parts for
Mhm.
2024? And obviously, Mercedes seem to be confident. Lewis Hamilton seemed confident of having a good year, and Hamilton just topped FP2.
Yeah,
So, who's the best of the rest? Is it going to be Ferrari versus Mercedes, or is McLaren also going to come play spoiler? They've been off, I think, again, like last season. But do you think they'll
mhm.
come back? Or are we going to see Aston Martin come back?
I think there's going to be a lot of teams who's going to be jostling for that P2 position, I would say, in the Constructors' Championship this season. It's not going to be as clear cut as last season, where we saw it was Ferrari in the first few races, and then Mercedes and McLaren, after, say the second half of the season made a jump, and ultimately Mercedes, as you said, pipped Ferrari. So I would say it's going to be more of an open and even battle this time because it seems that a lot of teams have developed on their car from last year uh, as well. I mean, obviously, because they had more time since Red Bull had wrapped up the championship mid-season, so they could
Right,
focus on building towards the 2024 season. So we've seen, impressive car designs from McLaren, Mercedes, as well as Ferrari as well. So I would say all these three teams would be in contention for that P2 in the Constructors' Championship. And it would be amazing to see different winners this time in this season. Obviously we saw Max winning so many 90% of the races last season, so I would love to see, or we as F1 fans would love to see more winners this time around, at least
yeah,
trying to compete with Max as well. We may not get it in the initial races based on what teams are saying of Red Bull's car at this point. But if I had to pick, I would pick Mercedes at this time. I think they are due for a resurgence after the last couple of years when they've had two terrible seasons with one win in the last two seasons. So I think they're due for a good season. And James Allison has returned as the technical director. He was not there last season and the previous season as well. So
right,
I would say they've got a point to prove, as well as it being Lewis's last season. They don't want, Lewis feeling that, oh, he's left a bad situation and gone into a better situation with Ferrari. They want him to think he's left the best situation in F1 and gone to a rebuilding team in Ferrari. So I think Mercedes will have my bet in terms of coming P2 in the constructors. It's going to be close with Ferrari and McLaren, and somehow if Aston Martin gets their act together with Fernando Alonso again. But
right.
so far it's Mercedes for me. Do you think otherwise, Pratyush?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say, right? I mean, the one thing that concerns me at Ferrari, which I mean, we don't
Mhm.
know yet. I mean, I'm not an aerodynamic designer, but there's a lot of chatter that Ferrari's different approach to rear suspension
Yeah,
might prove costly because I think nine other teams, or maybe eight other teams, because Haas just use Ferrari parts.
yeah.
But I think other teams are going for what, a push rod, and I think Ferrari's gone for pull rod
Pull rod.
suspension.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what the implications of that are. Uh, but yeah, I think on pure pace, I think yeah, obviously Red Bull is way ahead of everybody at this point.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, I hope at least, even if Red Bull runs away with the championship, I hope at least we get some other teams at least win more than a race, right? I mean, sure,
yeah.
Red Bull take a Singapore win, but give us some other race wins of the other teams.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
So I
But
think,
so what do you
yeah,
think
go on.
in terms of the pecking order? What do you think? Do you still have your since you're a Ferrari fan here, do you still want, or do you still have hopes in them? In them challenging Red Bull, or do you think Mercedes might have done a better job in their car in the off season?
Uh, Honestly, I don't think anybody's challenging Red Bull this year.
Yeah,
Um, just looking at, the first day of testing, 1.1 seconds ahead of Lando Norris. Yeah, I think Red Bull has just shown what they're capable of, and Max is going to be all alone at the front. Uh, Maybe we'll see Perez versus Ferrari duels, you know. Uh,
Mm. Yeah.
but yeah, I think Ferrari versus I think only hope as a Ferrari fan is that both the drivers like the car very much a lot. If you see last year, right after testing, they were like the car is trash. I mean, Leclerc was basically like this car is terrible, right? Both Sainz and Leclerc were like this car can't be driven. This is terrible. You know, we have this garbage, right? But this year they both
Mhm.
seem to like the car. So and yeah, Mercedes Lewis also looks pretty
Yeah.
like the car, right? Mercedes also looks to put in a lot of effort in the off season.
Mhm.
So I was expecting McLaren to start off strongly after the strong end last year to the season, but it looks like they just can't start seasons properly. So yeah, they'll probably battle out in the midfield for a while. But yeah, we'll see. Tomorrow's qualifying is definitely going to be very interesting. And also, at least for the past few seasons, Bahrain has been a bit of a strong track for Ferrari as well.
Yeah.
So we'll see if Leclerc can pull off a rabbit out of his hat again and at least get pole. He's probably not winning the race
Yeah.
either way.
I mean, if
At
he
least
gets
win.
pole, it's Max who's winning, so we know that. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, as we talk about McLaren being in the midfield, what do you think on the midfield? Who's at the front?
I
So
mean, we know.
if it
Yeah.
Ferrari, Mercedes, and Red Bull are in the front jostling, who do you think is the first in the midfield?
I think let's keep Red Bull in their own league, maybe at this point, and say Mercedes, McLaren, and Ferrari in a second tier. So that
Yeah,
leaves midfield with Aston Martin, McLaren, Visa Cash App because they're running last year's Red Bull car, and
yeah,
Sauber. So yeah, those four I guess would be in the midfield, and then one of them probably takes the jump to the to Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes' league. As the season goes on. So,
right.
and then you got Williams, and I think Haas was like probably way
So
off
what
the
is
other teams.
yeah?
Yeah,
So do you think Williams, Haas, and Alpine do they have
yeah.
any hope of the
I think
midfield?
Alpine has shown the couple of practice sessions which we've had so far in Bahrain that the car does not seem to be at that level which the midfield teams currently are at this point. So
Right.
I think it's going to be a struggle for them initially, which is very disappointing because Alpine was supposed to be they were supposed to take a step this season.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so
I mean, Gasly showed some hope on first
yeah,
day of testing, but then it just fell apart after that.
yeah. Obviously, it's too early because let's wait for quali and races. But there is some indication from this couple of practice sessions that they are not up to that standard as of now in terms of challenging for points in the midfield.
Yeah,
So
they're way behind in FP2 and I
yeah,
think FP1 as well.
correct. So I think that should be the order which we should likely see. I would love
Yep,
to have surprises because F1 is beautiful sport which
right.
always throw the surprises. So it would be fun to see,
Definitely.
say, Alonso finishing in the podium spots, or Daniel Ricciardo somehow finishing in the top five. But
Well,
honestly
that's
speaking, that's a little
FP1 today.
yeah, that's true. But I don't think we might see that in quali and in the race. So it would be lovely to see Ricardo because he's on the cusp of probably going back to Red Bull in
Yep,
2025. So if he has a good first few races, then we got to keep an eye out for Perez's seat next season, with Ricardo
yeah,
probably
yeah,
replacing him. So yeah, I mean we're going to have surprises. If we move on to the next topic which we have is probably the surprise of the race in Bahrain. So
yeah,
if I had to pick, I'll probably pick Fernando Alonso because he's just proven time and time again that he's gonna pull a rabbit out of the hat. So
yeah. I agree
as the
with you.
year,
And also,
yeah,
Aston Martin seem to have continued the development with a strong car, right? I mean, if you look at FP1, FP2, Alonso was P3 in FP2, and I think P5 in FP1. Stowe was obviously somewhere in the midfield, but or even behind. I think what Stowe was P14 in the morning. So, but yeah, I think Alonso. I agree with you. Alonso, I think is maybe gets a podium like last year's Bahrain Grand Prix, right? Did he get like overtake signs at the end and get third last
yeah,
year behind the Red Bulls?
yeah. I think Alonso. I mean, you can never count this guy out, right? He's He's 42, 43, and he's still going to be performing at an elite level. So he's definitely my pick for surprise. Surprise driver of this race for this race. So, I mean, there could be other contenders like say Mercedes somehow challenging Red Bull, or say Ferrari winning the race. So
Yeah,
we have a few options there, but I mean, the realistic option is probably Alonso at this point.
yeah, yeah. I think Alonso is a realistic option. But I'll be very interested to see how the what the hell I don't want to call them Visa Cash App, but RB, the racing rules.
V Cup, just
Toro
call
Rosso.
it V
Let's
Cup.
call them Toro Rosso. I'll be very interested how RB performs. I mean, Dan Ricciardo
I agree.
showed some form in the first session before falling to P12. I
Yeah,
was really
it will
hoping that.
it will
Uh,
definitely be interesting to see how they perform also from a business standpoint, because Zach Brown recently raised the aspect of some these kind of teams should not be, they
right.
shouldn't be allowed to function in F1 because they're just taking
Yeah, yeah,
the parts from the A team and getting the car to be made. So it's like an unfair advantage to teams
right.
directly competing with them. So let's
Especially
see, like,
since the 18th car is last year's championship winning car, right?
yeah, exactly. So if we somehow see that Ricardo is finishing, the top five, and you know, what's I mean, what's the other guy's name? I forgot. His teammate. Is it? No,
Oh,
it's not.
Yuki,
It's not. It's not Zo. It's not Zo. It's the. It's
Yuki,
the
Yuki.
short guy. Yuki. Yuki. Sorry. Sorry
Yeah,
for
the short.
forgetting his name. Yeah. So if you see Yuki also in the top 10 or something, then there's going to be like more suspicion, and Zach Brown is definitely going to come hard on that. So that is something to keep a watch out for as well, as to how this car performs relative to say a McLaren or an Aston Martin or something like that. So
Hmm,
as a fun fan, it would be good to see Daniel up there, but we have to keep in mind that this is last year's car, and the last year's car was far superior to any other car on the grid.
right. But do you think uh, this year teams are better than last year's Red Bull? At least some of them. Otherwise, it's going to be P3 Dan record every race, right?
I mean, obviously, the driver element is also there with, that's why Max was winning every race while Perez was fighting with the Ferraris and Mercedes every race. So you got that as well. But obviously, teams have taken a step. I mean, you'll never know till the first race is over and how times are
Yeah,
relative to last season. So we just have to wait and watch to see what Daniel does with that 2023 car.
yeah. It's really going to be interesting because RB. I mean, we did have teams, who used to get parts from the partner teams, like like Williams and Mercedes or Haas and Ferrari, most prominent in the recent years. But
Yeah.
our like, what? Screw all of that. We're just going to get last year's car.
We're going
Uh,
to get last year's car. We're going to rename ourselves to Visa Cash App Red Bull, and just have Red Bull in our name. That's it.
yeah, there's a Red Bull Junior team or something. Red Bull 2.
Yeah. So that's going to be an interesting, aspect to see throughout the season.
Yeah. And moving on to some off-track action, we had a very busy off season this year. It all started with Spygate, with the new Spygate, right? It Toto, Susie Wolf leaking stuff to the media and whatnot. We had that before Mercedes stamped that out after an FI investigation.
Yeah.
Then we had the Red Bull driver circus going on all winter. We've had Lewis, of course, with his bombshell. We had what the heck is going on in Kick Sauber Steak F1 team
Yeah.
with
Exactly.
their
But the
and
sponsor.
yeah, I mean they're going to be called Steak in some countries. They're going to be called Kick in some countries. It's just a
Yeah.
big mess. And then Visa Cash App RB was like, hold my beer. Uh, we're
Yeah.
going to do you one better. We're going to make a team's name a sponsor because you can't decide on whether we should call ourselves Scuderia Rosso, Alpha Tauri, or what are the dozen other names that they've had. We're going to call ourselves Visa Cash App RB. But then I was just looking at
Wait,
the
wait,
F1
wait.
website.
How do you?
They don't,
How do you?
they don't
How as
what's the
how
name?
as employees of this team? How do you go into a board meeting and decide that this is the best name you're going to come out with after a 2 hour board meeting?
No, and the funniest thing is, RB says we'll call ourselves, Visa Cash App RB, right? But if you look at the F1 website and the official timesheets, the F1 timesheets never used sponsor names. So
Yeah.
people are really curious, what will they be called in the F1 timesheets? And it's called RB Honda RBPT.
Wow. I thought Red Bull was called RB Honda RBPT or
No,
something. I don't
no,
remember.
no. So Red Bull is Red Bull Racing Honda RBPT because F1 puts the name of the constructor and the engine
Correct, correct.
supplier.
At the end, yeah.
Yeah, so it's Red Bull is Red Bull Racing Honda RBPT, and this guy is RB Honda RBPT.
Is
What
that
the
for
heck is?
real?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. That's not good.
So the team's name is RB, which people think it's Red Bull, but they wouldn't confirm it, right? Because that would make sense. There's a rumor that it's Racing Bulls, but that was never confirmed. And
That's fine. What do you do?
the weirdest thing is that Red Bull is also called RB, right? If you go to any Reddit thread on our Formula One, our Formula Dank, or any of those places,
Yeah.
people, get in the habit of uh, using RB for Red Bull, right? So somebody will say, "Oh yeah, RB is going to run away with the championship," and then you say a comment, "Oh, let's go, Daniel Ricciardo, 2024 World Champion." This is such a mess.
Yeah. Speaking of mess, we also got the whole Horner situation, which has kind of taken F1 aback
Oh
in terms
yes.
of it just came out of nowhere, right? It's like you suddenly get this news, and whole investigation is ongoing. And just yesterday we got the news that he was cleared of any wrongdoing, and then suddenly today, just before we went live, there was a
Uh huh.
leak of and the entire confidential information, which apparently has proof that Honor actually did some wrongdoing, and then was not actually penalized for it. So that
Oh
circus is
wow.
still going on right now. So if
I
there's a
didn't. I
tweet by
didn't. When it has come out.
yeah, there's a tweet by I think Jen Fryer or something. She's an F1 reporter. So I shouldn't say tweet, a post. So a post by Jen Fryer. So she said that somebody has sent an anonymous person has sent an email to all the F1 reporters as well as to the F1 hierarchy with
Uh-huh.
confidential information on Christian Horner's involvement in that case, which could be still be taken to a civil court later on. So
Oh wow.
that
Yeah.
circus
Okay.
is yeah.
Yep. I just seeing it. A Google Drive containing all the Christian Horner evidence in quotes has just been emailed from an anonymous account to hundreds of journalists. Correction. In addition to journalists, it is sent to other team principals, Liberty Media,
Yeah.
Stefano Domenicali, and many others. This file contains photos of WhatsApp messages and other photos. And she's not sharing it till the AP verifies all of this, but oh my god.
Yeah.
We are going to get more popcorn.
We need popcorn, we need coffee. I don't know. This is gonna go on for a long time, I feel.
Yeah. Yeah, this has been like last year silly season was kind of, quiet apart from Aston Martin coming with a car that copied Red Bull from the previous
Yeah.
year. But this year already, we're seeing so many news, right? There were rumors earlier today morning that Perez has a performance ultimatum for this season as well if he wants to
Mm.
be extended, right? And Red Bull has a lot of drivers waiting in the wings. They have Yuki, they have Daniel, they have junior drivers waiting.
Science
Uh,
also.
sorry?
Carlos.
Oh yeah, Carlos, yes. Yeah, it's been a wild off season,
Yeah.
and it looks like it's not going to stop, right? And especially 2026 new regulations, right? And Honda, who said they're going to be exiting F1, said no, actually.
Yeah,
Do
but
you know
but
about
I
that,
think
right?
this
Honda
I think they
supporting
are
another.
exiting, right? Because the whole Ford thing, which is coming in 2025 with the Red Bull partnership and stuff.
Uh, no, they're going to be the work supply for Aston Martin, right, in 2026.
Who, Honda?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, I did not see that news. Is that true?
yeah. It was announced last year. Um,
Oh,
I don't see any contradictions yet to that.
I do not see any news on that, so I'm not sure.
So,
Oh,
so just to recap, what happened? Honda, after many years,
wow.
came
Okay.
to F1. Honda, after many years out of F1, so they were in F1 for a long time, right? They used to be called BR Honda most recently back in the day,
Yeah.
and then they left F1, and Ross Brawn famously bought the team for a pound, right? And then we got
Yeah.
Brawn GP, and well, Ross Brawn is a genius, so they won the title, and then that became Mercedes, and we got the decade-long dominance of Mercedes later. Uh, Another team that
Then
Schumacher built,
it.
ironically.
Yeah. But I did
But then,
not see this news actually. I missed this news. So thanks for getting this, into my to
yeah,
my notice. So
so
that means
Honda came
Aston Martin is
back.
going to leave Mercedes and join forces with Honda, which is like kind of surprising to me.
Yeah, so Honda came back to F1 in what, 2015, 2014, right, with
With
McLaren?
McLaren,
That's when
2014.
Alonso came back and was a spectacular
Yeah.
disaster. And
Yep.
then Red Bull divorced Renault because I don't know what happened with it, Cyril and Christian, but and the Red Bull wanted an engine supplier, and then Honda stepped in, and just at the right time, Honda built a rocket for Red Bull, right?
Absolutely.
And they just completely took away the dominance from Mercedes. And then Honda said, you know what? COVID happened, we had a recession, we can't
Yeah.
spend money on this. So we're going to
Correct.
leave, we have to leave F1 once again. And Red Bull was like, wait a minute, you can't leave us like that. We need you to stay till the next engine regulations, till 2025. So Honda was like, okay, we'll train your folks, right? You can call yourselves the Honda team. You can call yourself Red Bull Powertrains, and you can call whatever the hell you want. And we have licensed our tech till 2025, and then we're out. Say you, sayonara, konnichiwa, whatever the hell, we're out. And that's what everybody thought, right? Like, that's why Red Bull built an entire facility called Red Bull Powertrains to build up their engine thing, right? And then last year, the Honda says, oh no, actually, the economy is nice again. Japan is great. We're going to be back. In 2026, they're going to be the work supplier for Aston Martin. So Aston Martin is not going to be taking Mercedes engines anymore. It's going to be Aston Martin Honda. And also, I have no idea why Aston Martin won't develop their own engine. They're a car company themselves. Yeah, whatever. Honda is back in F1 with a different team. And I think didn't Red Bull also sign a deal with some Indian supplier?
With Ford.
Didn't really- Ford, yeah, Ford, right. So yeah. Um, so I wonder in 2026, will Yuki Tsunoda move to Aston Martin?
I think that's a long way, ahead. So
I mean,
I don't know
Honda
if you.
always want one of their drivers. I mean, one of Japanese drivers in a team they support,
They've
right?
always wanted it. It depends on how Yuki does in this next couple of seasons as well.
Yeah.
With that team,
So
he's going to be an option for sure because they definitely want a Japanese driver with that kind of a team.
yeah, I mean, Alonso is probably leaving in 2026, right?
I
He's
would
not
think
saying
so.
that.
He's going to.
I'm not saying he's leaving F1. That guy's going to race till he dies. But I'm saying he's probably going to leave Aston Martin. He can't share a team for too long.
Yeah,
Stroll
for
is
sure.
obviously not leaving. Unless Stroll crashes every race in 2025, and I mean,
Yeah,
even then, Papa Stroll will find a way to keep him.
unless
Uh,
Lawrence Stroll actually sells Aston Martin,
he's not selling,
he's not
man.
going to do it. But yeah, exactly.
Have you
So,
seen Drive to Survive, the first episode? Lawrence Stroll literally bought the team to see his son win a title.
oh my God, that's never going to happen, unfortunately.
Yeah, so you're never going to sell the team.
Yep, I agree. I think like we've had so many topics apart from the first day of the season that I mean we are able
Yeah,
to discuss so much on the other aspects rather than the first race of the season, which speaks volumes about the state of F1 right now in terms of the on track events not being as eventful as the off track events. So
yeah,
yeah, I mean that's a hope which we have that will revitalize the season if the season has something in store for us which is actually hooked the F1 fans back to watching F1 every race at any time zone. So this is all the expectation we have from the season.
So before we break, Aniket, I have a couple of questions for you. Obviously, we'll both do this, but
Yep.
it's a season we're about to kick off season, right? I want you to tell me at the end of the year who is your P1, P2, and P3 in the driver standings.
So Guan Yu is P1.
No,
Lance
no,
Stroll
let's
is
be serious.
P2.
Let's be serious.
I wish we had a parallel universe where we could say that. But I mean, okay, let's be realistic. Is it going to be
Yeah,
Max? It might well be Max. He might
yeah,
win like 70% of the races again. So
yeah.
I would say Max, Lewis, and maybe Charles in that order. That
Okay,
similar to last season. No, last season was Max, Checo, and Lewis. So maybe Checo
right.
falls off and ultimately gets replaced by someone. So
Yeah,
I think Max, Lewis, Charles, and that sets us up for 2025 to be a very good season to look forward to.
right. Um,
How do
I
you
have
have it?
seen that, but my Tifosi thing is going to leak in. So I'm going to say Max Charles Lewis. I'm not that delusional that I'm going to say Charles Max Lewis, but but I think it's going to be. I feel it's. I mean, Ferrari. They always give you hope at the beginning of the season, don't they? So I think
Yep.
it's going to be Max Charles Lewis. Not as much hope that they're going to win the season, but I think Max Charles Lewis. That's what I think.
Hmm.
And I think Red Bull's obviously winning the constructors, but I think it's going to be. Um, The only reason I'm still going to, I mean, I thought maybe Mercedes will be P2 in the constructors at least, even if
Yep.
Lewis is not P2. But I think Sainz is going to have a point to prove, and he's going to get a lot of points of Ferrari. So I'm going to go
Mhm.
with Red Bull, Ferrari, and Mercedes in the constructors. What about you?
I think I'll just reverse that. So Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari. Because obviously Lewis also has a point to prove. I mean, he's
Right,
coming off he's coming off 2 seasons where he's not won a race, which
right.
is very rare for a person who's
Wait,
won 103
uh,
races. So
didn't
yeah,
he win Brazil 2 years ago?
that was
Who won?
George.
Oh, that was George. Right, my bad.
Yeah. So Lewis has
I
not won
remember
a
Mercedes won.
race. He's stuck on 103 wins from the past 2 seasons. He has to win this season. And he definitely has to leave Mercedes on a high. Right? He does not want to get beat by George. He doesn't want to get beat by Charles as well. He wants to show Charles as well who's the boss coming into Ferrari in
Right.
2025. So that obviously
Is he winning
inspires
Silverstone?
George to do well as well.
Is he winning
So
Silverstone?
I mean, it's gonna be his last Silverstone race in a Mercedes. So he's
Yeah,
won.
and Silverstone is traditionally Mercedes' strongest track, right? Silverstone
It is.
Interlagos, not two of
He's
Mercedes'
won.
strongest track.
He's won like 6 races with as a Mercedes driver at Silverstone. So definitely, it depends on the car, right? What shape the car is in, where Red Bull is in at that point of the season as well. So
Right.
he's gonna go for it. He's gonna go. He's gonna go all guns blazing. He's gonna get that home support as well. So I mean, if I had to put my money, I wouldn't put my money on Lewis right now. But if you ask me in 3 or 4 races time, and if things are looking upwards, he may have a chance to be there.
Yeah. All right. Next question for you. Is Checo lasting a season in a Red Bull? I'm not saying I'm not counting him being demoted to Racing Bulls. Is he ending the season in the senior Red Bull racing team? Come Abu Dhabi, are we going to see Sergio Perez next to Max Verstappen?
As someone who's looking in from the outward perspective of you know we've seen so much of driver changes in Red Bull that happened mid-season, right? And it's something not likable for us F1 fans, right? Because we want like a consistent driver lineup throughout the season so that there's continuity for the F1 fans watching. There could be new fans joining in the sport in the middle of the season who might see Perez drive for Red Bull in one race and the next race he's like suddenly not in the picture. So For that reason, I would hope that Red Bull keeps Perez, and Perez also does well to keep his seat, throughout the entire season. The only way I see it falling off is, I mean, the way we spoke about earlier, where he's got a lot of DNFs. He's finishing behind Ferrari, Mercedes consistently as well. And
Yeah,
also Daniel is suddenly doing very well in the V car. So that is the only way I see it. And Red Bull has a huge fan base in Mexico as well, you know, who can turn on any team, like this. So they don't want to disappoint their Mexican fan support as well, which they currently have at this point. So I believe they're going to make a decision on Perez's future sooner rather than later. But I would hope that he keeps his seat at least towards the end of the season. Yeah, that's what I think.
yeah. Personally, I'm going to go the hot take. I don't think he's keeping. I think last year he was very close to losing his seat. I think if he didn't get P2, he was gone already last year. If he was not P2,
Yeah.
right? Because I mean, Max won the constructors title all by himself for Red Bull. That's how dominant the car was, and Checo just squeaked past Lewis at the end to get P2.
I mean, we can
So,
say Checo underperformed, right? It's fair to say.
yes. So the thing is, last year, the first four races, Checo and Max split the four races, right? Max both won two apiece. And I remember me texting a friend of mine saying, Max Verstappen's biggest competitor this year is Checo Perez. How wrong I was.
We all thought that.
Yeah. So I think Checo has also had, I mean, he's not getting any younger, right? He's been in sport for a long time. Everybody can't age like Alonso or Lewis or LeBron James. Uh,
Yep.
so I think, and Red Bull is famously ruthless with their drivers, right? We saw Max debut at Red Bull mid of the season, right? He was moved from Toro Rosso to Red Bull middle of the season. I think same thing happened in Vettel as well, right? So Red Bull is not afraid of promoting the drivers, but I think it also depends on how Yuki or Daniel perform in the second car in the second team. I think that will be key in how much patience Red Bull has with
Yep.
Perez. Because to be fair, Yuki hasn't shown the kind of form that Red Bull's last two Gino drivers showed, right? Who moved teams middle of the season. Like both Max and Vettel were generational talents who have won
Yeah. I
multiple
think
titles.
I think Vettel still moved the season after he won that race in Italy, and so he got an entire season with Toro Rosso, and then he made the step up to Red Bull. But I
Right,
agree. Like, I mean, I agree with the Max part, and obviously, they've had a lot of shuffles. I mean, I think Danny Cuellar and Daniel Ricciardo also swapped seats or something like that.
right,
So yeah,
yeah. Yeah, and we saw a few years back after Daniel left, how much circus Red Bull had, right? We had Albon, we had Gasly,
yeah,
and we had
correct.
that the whole mess middle of the season. So yeah, I think we'll see. Yeah, Vettel, my bad, he didn't replace in the middle of the season. He was at the end though. But
Yep.
but we have seen Red Bull not being afraid to bin their drivers. So yeah, okay. My next question for the season is who is the first team principal to get fired?
Team principle. I mean, it's difficult to say because I think the top teams are pretty stable, right? So you got Honor. I don't know what's going to happen with Honor. So let's hope that the allegations are false, and he's still there. So Honor, you got Toto, you got James Vowles at Williams, who's just come in and revolutionized that team. Fred
Yeah,
Vasseur. So I don't know, like, not. It's a very difficult question, which probably I don't have an answer to right now. It might probably be one of the some of the team at the back end like Haas or you know Alpine, wherein they have to make a change because of how poor they are.
I'm
But
I'm going with
Haas,
Alpine. I mean, Haas. I think Haas just recently fired Gunther, right? So I
Exactly, Gunther.
think
Yeah.
it might
So
be a year.
you
But
don't
I think
see.
my money is on Alpine having a mid-season firing
At
because
the rate they are going, they just might. You never know.
but they've been crap the past few seasons, right? Remember L plan? They had a 100 race
Yeah.
plan. It has been more than 100 races since that announcement, and they're worse off. Um, they fired Cyril, who was kind of getting the team together, and I think this guy has kind of been. I think looking at Alpine's standings in testing and FP1, FP2 so far, yeah, my money's on Alpine having a rigid leadership by the end of the season.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair to say based on how they do in the first two races, which does not look good at this point.
Yeah. All right. And last question: do you think Honor stays? What's your hot take
Uh,
on Honor? I know you're a Mercedes fan. You
I
hate
mean,
Christian Horner.
we need to see the follow up for this. I thought he was generally going to get fired based on the strong rumors we had. So this was
Yeah.
surprising to see that all the allegations being dismissed.
Right.
So I mean, if we have something from the WhatsApp, not the WhatsApp, the Google Drive link which was shared to everyone, then
Right.
then we still have something about that case still ongoing. So, but I still think he keeps the seat. I think that all this gets washed away and there's a out of court settlement done or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it's certainly going to be a very, very action-packed season behind Max Verstappen. Uh, while he probably, I don't know, maybe this is the first year where the winner wins every race and laps the rest or 19 drivers every race. I don't know. Uh, if
Yeah.
if the first year of testing was any indication, then Lewis is lapping every driver. But we'll see.
Or we get like a 10 driver shootout for the championship this season, which is also fun.
I would just be happy with the 2021 repeat, man. Uh,
Oh, I agree. Just give me like
not
two drivers
necessarily
battling
Lewis,
for the championship.
not necessarily Lewis, but basically two or three drivers just going neck to neck the whole season.
I think everyone loves that and everyone wants F1 to get back to that. And not and before 2026, because definitely 2026 might see a lot of changes, but 2024 and 2025 is something, we hope that F1 fans love to enjoy. So yeah.
Yeah, I think before 2021, the last time we had such a season was what, maybe 2007 and 8, Lewis's first two seasons.
I think 2012 was good, 2010 was also good. We had a good
Yeah,
2018 season with Vettel was in with a shout till like I don't know till German Grand Prix. So
yeah.
yeah,
I
we've
think
had a couple of good
2022
seasons.
was supposed to be a two-horse race, but Ferrari just did Ferrari things
Yeah,
again. Ferrari was very strong that season to start. But yeah, I think a season like, which one was that? Lewis's first two seasons, 7 and 8.
yeah,
And even I think one of Vettel's season, right? 2012, where he won in the last race, right? Yeah,
correct.
I think we need a season like that for F1 to, hopefully 2026, uh, with all its Indian changes will give us that. But hopefully this season, yeah, I think it's either going to be Max lapping everybody or we're going to a three-way fight. We'll see what happens.
Let's hope it's the latter.
Yeah. All right, everybody. So that's our season preview, and we will see you again before Saudi Arabia. So we'll see you in a week. So have fun at the season opener and room, room, zoom, zoom.
And let the
2027
five
is
red lights
finally here.
go.
Yeah, it's lights on, away we go. All right, folks. See you, everyone.